Palantir is the next biggest stock in the public count, $98,000 position. We're up 100% on the stock, up $49,000. So far, the position has started out really well. And I say start out because this is really a position that was built in 2022 in the beginning of this year in 2023. So when it comes to Palantir, am I looking to add more shares? This one, surprisingly enough, I might actually be looking to buy more shares of Palantir. Yes. And Palantir is a very tricky stock. And let me explain it like this, okay? Palantir, if you look at forward P, you might think, oh, it's an overvalued stock, right? I just don't think that's the reality. I think Palantir is going to get much more profitable over the next 3 years than anybody's anticipating. And I mean, anybody's anticipating. And so I think they could eat up that forward P very quickly, where it goes from looking like an overvalued stock to a very undervalued stock very quickly. And so for that reason, I actually think Palantir is still a buy. With that being said, I feel pretty comfortable with the shares. And the problem is I have so many other stocks that are great opportunities as well. We spoke about PayPal right now. There's several other stocks in the market that I think are great opportunities. So that's where it gets you a tough market. I mean, if it wasn't for PayPal and some of these other stocks I feel like are steal deals right now, I might still be buying more Palantir right now. But as far as what I have, I feel pretty comfortable. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh man, I wish I had more Palantir. Like, I feel comfortable with what I have, but with that being said, I wouldn't mind having some more shares, just to be honest. Now, how do I think the stock will perform in 2024? So, I believe Palantir stock could perform tremendous in 2024. And I know that sounds probably pretty crazy because we're coming off of an insane year for Palantir stock. I mean, Palantir, we'll see where the stock closes this year, but it could be at a 200% gain in 2023, which is insane. With that being said, I think it could actually perform great again and maybe be up 50% or something like that in 2024. And the reason being is I think that, like I said, with the EPS, I think the EPS could be explosive for the company. They're going to continue to pour in interest income. We know that for 2024, right? But on top of that, they just started to reach operating income. So I think you're going to see major business profits start to boom. Then you add on top the fact that they've taken the sales cycle from this massive long cycle into a very shortened cycle now. And I think you're going to see a lot more deals close with commercial customers specific in 2024 versus 2023. And that's going to excite a lot of people. So I think there's several... With Palantir, the great news is there's several elements here that I think are going to be pretty appealing for the stock in 2024. So that's kind of my feelings about Palantir and where we're at there, okay? First off, obviously, it's been a tremendous year for Palantir stock. I think we all know that by now, right? 180%-ish, we'll see where this year finishes up, but it could be up close to 200% year to date. It's been absolutely phenomenal. But with that being said, the stock has started to get weak very recently, as in the past few weeks or so. There's a 1 month for Palantir stock. Stock's actually down almost 9 percentage points. If you back it up to right about here, the stock's down double digits, right? And the reason this weakness has transpired in regards to Palantir stock, despite the market actually being very nice here recently, the reason this weakness has happened is because there's a bearish analyst out there. And this bearish analyst has said, in regards to an Army contract, it is not going to be renewed at anywhere remotely close to the previous value. And he has said that, Palantir used to make $100 million plus from this deal a year, and now they're only going to make, based upon what I saw his estimates, it looks like $50 to $60 million a year. And so this has led a lot of people to be very concerned about this deal and Palantir's dealings with the government and what's going on here, and could they potentially lose revenue opportunities from the government, right? And this has led, obviously, a lot of momentum to come out of stock and a lot of people to sell the stock and put a lot of selling pressure on the stock. You don't get the stock to go from $21 to actually just a few days ago was trading at 17. You don't get that sort of drop without a lot of people kind of being fearful of what's going on here and concerned, and selling pressure to come on the stock, okay? So that happens, right? But then we get the big news here today. And the big news in regards to this contract comes out. And did we see what he said he thought we would see, okay? And here's what actually happened. Well, Palantir stock pushes higher on $115 million Army contract extension. Wow. Palantir said Friday it received a 1-year extension on a contract with the U.S. Army worth up to $115 million. Oh, interesting. The analytics and artificial intelligence company is powering a data operations program called Army Vantage. The $115 million contract includes $35.6 million in initial funding and an award of $97.4 million, Palantir said. Now, this is very intriguing because the previous contract, okay, this is where things get really interesting. Palantir garners nearly 60% of its revenue from government agencies. Obviously, we know the commercial business is growing and should continue to grow substantially and become a much bigger component of their business, but the government's still extremely important to Palantir, right? The previous deal between Palantir and the Army was for 4 years, $458 million. Palantir's news release described the extension as evidence of the company's, quote, success in empowering U.S. military decision makers with actionable insights and advanced analytical capabilities through the delivery of our secure and open data environment, end quote. Now, 4 years, $458 million. So let's do a little math on that. What is that? Well, that's a little less than $115 million a year. In the Palantir contract, $115 million. Interesting, right? So there's no cut. There's no cut, like the analyst had said. Like, oh, there's going to be a cut, this and that, right? Raymond James analyst Brian G., we'll call him, called the extension a chill pill for bears after worries, according to MarketWatch. Concerns about whether the contract value would be renewed at the same value pushed Palantir stock down last week. All in, the win is in line with our expectations and provides the Army another year to formalize structure for a successor multi-vendor contract, said the analyst who wrote that, right? Now, on the other hand, William Blair, the Louis De Palma, the analyst that was, bearish on Palantir and started all this drama here, okay, he highlighted that the contract is shorter. True. It's a 1-year deal versus a 4-year deal. Indicative of a plan in the works to split the Army Vantage platform among multiple vendors. Not only was the duration of the new contract reduced, but the max annual run rate was even slightly downsized from the prior $116 million revenue run rate. What are we talking about here? The previous contract was 114.5, right? If the calculator is correct. So, and we're 115. We're right there, okay? This seeing something like this basically makes me say this analyst seems desperate for a bear case in regards to Palantir. I mean, this is fair, okay? Saying, okay, 4 years before, it's 1 year now. That's fair. This is desperation. Absolute desperation. Like, even pointing something like that when we're 114.5. Like, that's just like, come on, man. De Palma wrote on Friday, De Palma holds an underperform rating on the stock, believing its valuation compared with its cash flow is too high, right? Okay, fair. But this is desperate. This is fair. You want to talk about Palantir's valuation, you feel like it's that. You want to talk about 1 year versus 4 year, fair. This is desperate, okay? So, now, my thing in regards to this, okay, one is we got another year for basically the same amount of money, per year. And who knows about all the speculation about splitting in multi-vendors and this and that, right? Could be disadvantages to the Army doing that, and who knows if they even do that, right? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see about that. And also, let's say Palantir gets less from this deal. Who's to say it's going to be $60 million or $50 million? What if it's $100 million, $105 million? And that's assuming Palantir even loses out on some opportunity here. But here's my other thing, and I think this is even bigger in regards to this, right? We're arguing over breadcrumbs. In the grand scheme of things, we're arguing over breadcrumbs, right? This analyst, this and that, and this and that. It's all breadcrumbs. Let's say, hypothetically, Palantir gets less from this contract with the Army. And let's say it is $50 million less a year they're making off this deal than they were making before, right? Which is a substantial number, you would think, $50 million. Well, is it really? 2027, this company should do well over $5 billion of revenue. This is like, in the grand scheme of things, this is pennies. This is breadcrumbs, right? In the next 10 years, Palantir should be at a run rate of $10 billion plus revenue. So, I don't know, man. We can argue over these breadcrumbs and are we going to get this much or that much? At the end of the day, it's little money, man. And so me as a Palantir shareholder, right? Am I losing sleep over this situation? And the answer is absolutely not. Palantir's got a phenomenal balance sheet, one of the best in the world. They're clearly a growth company, even in a tough environment, which they've been in the last couple of years, where a lot of folks just haven't wanted to spend in these sorts of products. They just got their product to be able to be shown off and get customers excited now in a matter of days instead of months previously. Like, I lose no sleep thinking about Palantir stock. I can tell you that much. The rest of this is just a show. It's just a spectacle. That's all it is. Oh my God, this deal, that deal. It's all spectacle, okay? As long as the long term's headed where I think it's headed, we're looking good here, okay? Already, Microsoft is leading the way in AI. Let's hear what Dan Ives has to say about some stocks here.
Securities analyst Bob Pisani also joins us to talk about the sort of discrepancy between tech and everybody else. But first, Dan, on Microsoft, how much of a bellwether is it?
I mean, right now the trophy case for AI is in Redmond. And I think if you look, Microsoft's really the torchbearer. They're leading the way on AI because of Copilot. And what we've talked on in this program is that for every $100 of cloud spend, we think there's an incremental 35 to 40 of AI spend. I think this is a golden age led by Microsoft. Now you're seeing Google and others start to get on the train. And
I like how you mentioned that, for every $100 of cloud spend, talking about $40+ potentially in AI spend. That's a pretty powerful number. I mean, if AWS can put up something similar, wow.
It's the start of a new tech bull market, AI driving it.
Any news you expect from Investor Day today?
I think some sense in terms of maybe on the OpenAI, post-OpenAI soap opera, depending on the questions. Nadella really talking about the strategic footprint going into 2024. Look, this is it's a champagne quarter for Microsoft. It's really been a champagne year, but ultimately, if you go into 2024, it's just the beginning. I believe the first, second inning of where AI is going, and everyone's trying to play catch up to Nadella and Redmond.
Well, meanwhile, the story today in the market is really Alphabet stock price.
Okay, before we go into other stocks here, when I look at the AI market, I really see, and I think this is important, okay? This is really important. There's going to be a lot of winners in different ways than other companies, right? If I look at AI, there's a lot of winners. NVIDIA is a huge winner. We know that, right? AMD is going to be a winner, right? More so in 2024 and in future years. If we look at, obviously, Microsoft's going to be a winner. Google, it's debated if they're going to be a winner or not. And the main reason is it could disrupt some of their traditional business model. We'll see how that plays out over the coming years. So I think Google's kind of up in the air. They're probably a net winner as well, right? Some people are talking about Apple. We'll see about Apple in regards to them. If I think about smaller companies, there's a lot of talk that Trade Desk could be a beneficiary. Obviously, Palantir is going to be a huge beneficiary. Snowflake's going to be a big beneficiary. AWS with Amazon is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries probably in the world. That's not talked about enough. And so there's a lot of opportunities. Even you look at companies like Tesla, right, in self-driving vehicles and making decisions and everything they got going on there, they'll be a beneficiary. So there's a lot of beneficiaries of AI over this next 5-10 years. And, some companies, it's going to matter more for their financial performance than to others. For some companies, it's going to matter more for their business model, protection around their business model, creating a bigger moat around their business model. Maybe it's not as big of numbers, but it may create a bigger moat. And there's certain things certain companies can do that don't necessarily generate extra revenue or profits, but it builds a bigger moat around it. A good example of that, a simple example, I think most people watching this, you kind of understand this and you think about this, is Apple, right? Apple's done a lot of things over the years that they haven't made money off of, but it's built a bigger moat around them. Think about the blue text instead of the green text, right? And so people that are in the Apple ecosystem and have friends and family, and they want to get those blue texts as well, right? Think about the way Apple devices connect to each other and the fact that you can send texts and answer calls right from your Mac or from your iPad or things like that. Like Apple's been doing these things for 10 plus years now, and they've built a moat around the business. And it's not like Apple really directly benefits from that, making money off that, but it created a bigger moat around it because people are like, well, I don't really want to switch my phone because then it's not going to connect to my iPad or my MacBook or my Apple Watch the same and all these sorts of things, right? So I think that's a little food for thought there, that some companies will be huge beneficiaries, but it's going to be in sneaky ways. They might not make extra additional revenue right off the top, but it might actually create a much bigger moat around the business, which is, one important component when it comes to investing, right?
Even though, interestingly, Gemini was introduced yesterday, relatively early in the trading day. What's going on here? Why is Why is it getting that reception, and how significant a competitor will it be in terms of putting Alphabet back in the running, so to speak, for the lead position?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, what Google showed off yesterday and the Gemini, and a lot of people are excited about that. Listen. A lot of the AI hype is now done. No, everybody's kind of in that cycle where we're waiting for numbers to start hitting for these companies over this next several quarters. The hype, the excitement of just like you show something off and your stock goes up, it's over. It's over. You look at AMD yesterday. AMD showed off their new chips and, that they're going to be very competitive. And Lisa Su's out there yesterday doing a bunch of interviews. And look what AMD stock went. The AMD stock went down yesterday, actually. Okay. And so we're no longer in the hype part. Now we're into, we want to see numbers. And if companies are putting up numbers, then they'll see their next big stock price moves. Outside of that, people are not going to buy the stocks.
Bullish on Alpha. I mean, in our opinion,
You're bullish on everything, Dan. Come on.
but importantly,
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. We needed that.
on the sum of the parts, I don't believe that this is a stock that reflects the AI success that they're going to have. If you look at GCP, you look at Google Cloud, and the opportunity with Gemini, I think investors, what's happened is almost a delayed reaction. I think it's been a moment of truth for Google, and they came and delivered. And I believe in terms of this $1 trillion market over the next decade, they are going to be a significant player. But I believe enterprise, that's the golden goose that they're going after. And I think you could start.
Don't they have something to lose on the consumer front as they lose perhaps their position in search as by far the leader?
Yeah, I think right there, they're atop that mountain. I don't think that they're worried about Bing or anyone else from a search perspective. Table stakes relative to what Bing could ultimately get relative to on search. But enterprise, that's what they're going after. Right now, this Game of Thrones that's going on in tech between Alphabet, between Microsoft, Jassy, and AWS, as Kramer's talked about being out there, this is, to me, it's a 1995 moment. It is the biggest transformation that we've ever seen in tech. And we've talked about use cases are exploding. That's what Google is going after. That's why this is, I think there's a moment we look back, a historical moment for Google.
I mean, that's part of the bull story of the market this year.
Yep.
The year that AI started getting priced in to NVIDIA and Microsoft and driving the whole market. Do we get that next year, or is all the good news in there already?
Well, this is the critical point you just brought up. I think of August 1995, the Netscape IPO. That's what launched the internet craze. And is this the pivotal moment? Is 2023 the pivotal year that AI had that once-in-a-generation pivot like the internet was in 1995? And I think you're onto something. First off, I think you should take a victory lap. You were right all this year. You've been relentlessly bullish. You've been mocked and laughed at for your relentless bullishness. But you've been directionally correct. You've been right on your calls. You've been wrong on your clothing for years and years and years. But we love you for that.
He's a clothing influencer. He's a clothing influencer.
You absolutely are.
I'm telling you, this man is making revenue from this.
The Reddit crowd is watching.
You got something going on there.
Sartorially, those tops from Bangkok, wherever you're getting.
And I was like, please don't tell my secrets.
Just keep doing it.
Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. Appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here, folks. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. New all-time high subscribers in the history channel. Join me over on Twitch. We got a 3-hour beast coming right now. Pin comment down there. Much love and have a great day.